August of 2024. The land acknowledgement statement, I don't have my glasses, so if you don't have a problem, we will dispense with that. Roll call, staff?
Matthew Harvey. Mr. Al Tamani.
Here.
Mr. Brian Flynn. Mr. Robert Helzer.
Present.
Lindsay Hobson. Here. Mr. Mark Lucan.
Here.
Ms. Carla McConnell.
I'm present.
Mr. Jared Riedel.
Attending remotely.
And Ms. Carmela Warfield.
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second on the motion?
This is Carla. I'll second.
A discussion on the motion? All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Informational reports. I'm normally not the chair, but I will be making just a comment at this point. The staff is preparing some binders for us probably at the September, October meeting, which has got all the information on responsibilities, duties, and all of that stuff. So that we'll all be on an equal phasing as to the input, what we're supposed to be doing and all of that type of things. So I think we'll have those in September, October. I don't have anything else, so we will go to the mayor's office, 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Good to be back here, everyone. It's been just about 2 months since I was sitting in one of your seats. But Nolan Clouda, and I'm the policy director for the mayor's office now, and I'm on day 4 on the job. So the mayor's office is, this administration is now in, we're not yet to day 40, I don't think. Mayor LaFrance took office on July 1st, sworn in, and we are guided by kind of 3 main priority areas that the administration set out that I can describe briefly. But they're good government, safe streets and trails, and building Anchorage's future. And so the good government category is about ethical, accountable government, about staffing up departments, about getting financial management up to snuff. And I know that this group talked a lot about that in the past. So making sure that the government is functioning and providing services that people want in an efficient way. Safe streets and trails. This is a category that includes public safety, staffing up APD, improving any kind of community relations with APD, and also includes talk about snow removal, which is something we know is a big issue. And building Anchorage's future, the third area includes things like housing, what to do about our energy future in Anchorage, the port and critical infrastructure, economic opportunities, and our general quality of life. So we are, very much in the thick of translating all of these things into what our policy agenda is, and in a lot of cases we're already making some decent progress for the amount of time that's been there. I think for anybody who saw the outgoing administration's transition report, has a lot of great information that goes through each individual department and talks about some of the big challenges and opportunity areas and so forth. A bit of an update from each department about what the state of things are. And you'll see a lot of alarming issues there around staff vacancies to the point of really threatening the ability of those departments to deliver services. And going along with that, a big issues around the financial reporting and the late audits and some of those kinds of challenges. Some of which are also related to staffing, and then you have issues like fleets and municipal assets, not being quite adequate to the need. And so you have a lot of challenges there. We have, I think we're really fortunate the Muni has Bill Falsey as the chief administrative officer and Becky Lynn Pearson as the municipal manager. And I think the two of them are very, very attuned and focused on looking at these problems. And if you, and probably assembly member this, but there was a really good work session that you can watch the video of Becky and Bill talking about these issues and the way that they've framed them and what the challenge and how they're approaching solving some of these things going forward. So something that the challenges that identified are something that they're very actively and energetically working to solve. As far as the mayor's office itself, with my arrival on Monday, mostly fully staffed. We have there's a small policy team that's myself and two others that are focused. We each have a kind of a portfolio of policy areas that we focus on. The chief of staff, Katie Skovic. We have a deputy chief of staff as well as Barbara Jones, Amanda Moser on communications, and we've got a couple Marie Husa on constituent relations, and so we're mostly fully staffed up, but we are very excited to dig in and do the best that we can for the city. So I'm certainly welcoming of all these challenges for my own role.
Any questions? Okay, move on to the agenda. Item number C. Assembly, you've got 10 minutes and then questions and answers.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Anna Brawley, Anchorage Assembly, and co-chair of Budget and Finance Committee. I will talk less than I did last month because I gave a lot of updates, but I also shared some information by email that you guys can see, and mentioning some upcoming work sessions. So I know staff can distribute that later if you guys haven't already. Just a few updates. One, the 2022 audit is complete. I think that happened right after your guys' last meeting. And there's an audit committee on July 31st where we went through those findings in detail. The good news is, of course, it's done, and all the issues that were raised through the process have been resolved to the extent that they can through the audit. Of course, it did also highlight some kind of longer term structural finance issues that I am not the most qualified to speak to, but of course, there's still plenty of work ahead of us. And I know work is probably already underway on the 23 audit so that we are catching back up on where we are. So I will defer any questions about that to other people. And I'm looking at Ona specifically. But that's a big milestone. I did actually have a chance to ask, and there was some email follow-up from last meeting about alcohol tax grant audits. That is not something that's been done. Our audit department, of course, is small and always has a longer list of things that they want to do, year over year versus what they have the capacity to do. But I did speak with our acting internal audit director, Scott Lee, about adding that into the list, and he was interested in that. So my understanding is the timing of when the decision about audits, for the coming year is made is in late fall. There's a call out to assembly members, out to departments, what we would want to put on the list. So I'm going to make sure that is considered as one of the priorities. And I think it'll dovetail nicely with all the conversations we've had about, looking at where the funding has been spent and then looking ahead, kind of making sure that we're being effective with those funds. Next thing is the transition. No one really covered a lot of what I was going to say. The thing that I will pull out of that conversation that was said last month as well to you all, and that is we have built a city that we cannot afford to maintain at the current service levels that people have expected, right? And I know that's going to be a big ongoing conversation. It is things like inflation. It is the fact that our tax cap has kept our budget pretty much the same for 40 years when you adjust for inflation. And then, of course, there's always high public expectations, as there should be, that we have good services like snow plowing, like having fully staffed departments. The transition report goes into a lot of more detail, but there's some of the big issues were pay, especially for professionals like attorneys. We end up losing a lot of folks to private sector, state. I know clinical services, our nurses, that's the same situation. And then our fleet, we have a very high mileage fleet for our snow graders, for police vehicles. That's another big theme. And as they've said, it's not just a matter of putting a bunch more money toward it now, because there are back orders and it will take time. So all of these things are really big things that I know the administration is going to be focused on, and the assembly is very interested in kind of getting that, as you said, the building our future. What does that look like long term? Another piece that I had asked staff to circulate when you have a chance is a letter that myself and co-chair, Budget and Finance co-chair Zalatel sent to our new OMB director, acting OMB director, really describing some of the priorities for 2025. So this is not an assembly resolution. So I want to be clear, it is based on what we essentially passed last fall, identifying things like workforce development, like public safety, a lot of these things that I think are not going to be surprising, but really highlighting that those are big picture, some of the assembly priorities. So that letter includes, like I said, public safety. That includes things like full funding of our mobile crisis team, making sure that continues, addressing staffing issues in Department of Law, for example, around the needs for body worn camera data analysis and those pieces. Infrastructure, of course, we talk about snow plowing and maintaining our roads. And then a lot of the issues that have already been discussed. So really, this letter is intended to really give some initial guidance or recommendations as the departments and the executive branch work on the draft budget. So that letter's available. It's just really, it probably won't be anything in there that's surprising. The last thing that I'll mention is some of our upcoming work sessions. And I think I flagged these last month as just big issues that we are working through or talking about. Our capital improvement program, our CIP list. We've been looking at how to improve that process, the ways that the public gives us input, understanding kind of how things get prioritized, and then making sure that we're being smart about, what we're prioritizing and looking across the city and making sure that we're being equitable about where we're proposing that funding go. So there's a work session, not this Friday, but next Friday on that topic. The ARPA funding, I think we're coming toward the tail end of when that money needs to be obligated, meaning just, saying that we are going to spend it in this way. But we're far enough along that there's a few areas where we anticipate the money where it was originally supposed to go may not be fully spent. So there's going to be a small amount of ARPA funding that can be reappropriated. Some of the issues that have been brought up, for example, making sure that we have enough funding for our 23 audit, because we knew we needed extra capacity there. Other ideas for really what the best use of those funds might be. There's a proposal on the agenda for the 13th to use some of that funding to pay for emergency sheltering. So that is actually a work session tomorrow on that topic. So if you want more information, there'll be more information there. And then lastly, I'll mention again, Project Anchorage, the sales tax proposal. This is not one that's coming from the Muni itself, but it is one that AEDC has brought forward. They did a more specific presentation about it yesterday at the Economic Forecast Luncheon. And I know they are doing the rounds, kind of, letting folks know. I think I recommended to this group, you should consider having them on a future agenda, giving a briefing. They're actively looking for project recommendations. And I think they said they'll be done with that in September, so it might make sense to have them back next month. And we have a work session about that next Friday, the 16th. And that's really going to be our first opportunity as the Assembly to hear that proposal in detail. We've gotten some briefings. I mentioned there's 3 Assembly members involved. I'm not one of them. And so they've given us updates on the process, but this will be our first really opportunity to talk in a public forum about that proposal. So that should be a fun conversation. And I think that's all of my updates. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Anybody have any questions?
You first.
Assemblymember Raleigh through the chair. So the Friday, the 16th, you said it was a work session. What time is that at?
I did not. So I sent links to the public notices. I think it's in the afternoon. But yeah, so if you, when you get that information set out, it's got all of them. I want to say it's 1 PM. And then of course they're all recorded too, so you can go back and watch on YouTube.
Yeah, I just think it would be, I was at that presentation yesterday and I had some questions. It would be great if somebody could provide some sort of analysis of how that, that tax breakdown would affect, like homeowners and yeah, I mean, just more details. I felt like it was very high level yesterday, which made sense for that audience, but it would be really good to see some details behind that and also understand, any coordination with the mayor's office on that proposal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's one where Ona and those guys could talk more about it. But yeah, I think that's I have a lot of questions as well, and I imagine other members do. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Through the chair, this is more of a, I guess, a recommendation than a question, but
I really appreciate you sharing this letter that you sent to OMB. I guess I would ask you to consider, as the assembly, and maybe this is high level, but aligning with the governor's, with the mayor's office on these infrastructure priorities, especially. Snow plowing certainly is acute. It's very noticeable, but just general road maintenance is also, I think, very key to keeping our city in good shape. And then, as Nolan already mentioned, the port as a piece of very significant infrastructure really needs to stay on that priority level, at the assembly level too.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. And I'll just note too, so this is really things that are looking at our operating budget, but I agree. And so, yeah, the port certainly important. I know Member Zalatow has been deep in that more than I have, and road maintenance as well, because we're going to be working through developing our legislative program for state and federal asks. So, yeah, so those are certainly on our mind, and we intend to work with the mayor's office as well to develop that and make sure that we have a unified front when we go to Juneau and talk to the feds.
Other questions?
Hey, Anna, this is Carla. If you guys can hear me okay.
Yep.
I know we discussed last time you were in regarding the way that it looks as though the priorities are skewed towards a small population of Anchorage as opposed to Anchorage as a whole, to all taxpayers. And I really, really, again, want to encourage you and Meg in the assembly to look at your budget and your priorities in the way it will help all of Anchorage first. And I realize that helping certain populations does help everybody in the end, rising tide. But sometimes I feel like we once again, we put everybody on hold, or we lose tax money for other things, parks and things like that. And I just think it's creating an atmosphere of dissatisfaction with the muni and with what's going on. So once again, I just encourage, if you guys could step back 30,000-foot level, look at it at the eyes of all residents, the way we skew our tax dollars or our budget. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback.
Other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for the attendance.
Yeah, and I'll stick around. I have to leave a little after 12:30, but I'll listen in. Thanks.
Okay. Anchorage School District, you're on. You got 10 minutes. Questions and answers.
Hello, good morning. This is Katie Parrott. I am working remotely today, so I'm online. I'm going to very quickly go over some of the updates to our revenue and budget for this year, and then I'm going to hand it over to the capital planning folks that I believe are in the room. I can't see them, but I think that they're in attendance today.
Yeah, we've got about a half a dozen here.
Well, you make a request and we respond. There was some interest at the last meeting related to the capital projects and funding for the district and what those processes are, what the updated status is. And so we invited our experts to come and provide that. You should also have a handout in your packet that goes over some of the information that they'll be presenting on. But essentially related to the budget for the district, we did do an updated budget with the revenues that came forward that were signed off by the governor. As you know, there were some funds that were vetoed. However, the one-time operating funds to the districts in the amount of approximately $175 million were signed by the governor for ASD. That equates to $49.1 million. The vast majority of which is going to be used to essentially reduce the risk of that's built into this current budget that was approved. So what we had to do, and I think we've talked about this kind of ad nauseum, is pull in quite a bit of fund balance to be able to achieve a balanced budget and maintain operations. And so a large portion of this revenue is going to go to reducing the reliance in this budget on fund balance to adjust the attrition factor that's built into the budget by a small amount. as well. So there are a few items that were added back into the budget for a variety of reasons. And then, of course, some tweaks and technical corrections that we do this time of year. Some of those are related to compliance or additional needs in some of our areas of service. Specifically, we did bring back about 4 or 5 FTEs in preschool based on the needs for expanding some of those classes, as well as an increased need to address the screening and kind of the legal requirements we have for preschool students who have been identified for special education services. We also have 3 additional positions related to safety and security. That was expressed last year as a need in some of our schools. And so the district is responding to those concerns made by the public, and also trying to shore up kind of the needs of the district as a whole. A portion of the one-time funds by law, by statute, has to be allocated to the charter schools, a proportionate amount based on their enrollment. So there is an additional about 3.3 million that was allocated to the charter schools. And then there's some additional needs that were originally taken out of the budget through our approval process that were added back in, but certainly not to the level that those things were reduced. There's a very small amount that's been added back in to do a social studies curriculum review, a very small amount that's been added back in for IT expendable equipment for classrooms, and some of those kind of one-off things were added back in. We also received a supplemental appropriation of about $2 million to pupil transportation, and that will largely be used to kind of backfill the loss of revenue that we've had the last few years due to some of the enrollment declines. And then last but certainly not least, there was the 9.6 million that was allocated for major maintenance, and that would be a perfect time to turn it over to our major maintenance and capital project staff. I'll let them introduce themselves and then provide their report.
Mr. Bruce?
Okay, right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rachel Molina Ladoon. I'm the project support supervisor for the capital planning and construction department district.
Want to introduce that all?
Sure. I am Carrie Shivers. I am the director of maintenance and project management for the Eager School District.
And my name is Edie Knapp. I'm the construction supervisor for the district, and I was just going to run through. That's okay, Rachel? Okay, so in your packet is a 5-page document that we pulled together that we were hoping would answer whatever questions you might have, but we are here to answer additional ones if you have them. First page is what was approved on the April 24 bond, the projects and general description. Next page is all the projects that we've funded through alternate sources. We had missed a bond the year before, and so had some debt retirement from the state and other funding sources, some grants that we've received. So that's just a list of projects that we've been working on that were not bond funded. And then there's the list of projects that made the cut in the state budget for this year for reimbursement grant projects. I'm sorry,
That is the 9.6 million that he was discussing about the grants the district has received.
And then we also included a list of what we've been working on this summer, which is the next bullet. A lot of our projects these days are mostly due to staffing issues with the contractors. They're 2 summers instead of 1. So you'll see a number of those, roofing projects. Roofing contractors have told us they can't do a whole elementary school roof in 1 summer anymore, just the number of people that they can get on board. So lots of our roofing projects are 2 summers. If you have any questions about ongoing projects, we're here. And then there's a description, and Rachel can talk to this about, how we prioritize projects and get to our CIP.
So Edie and myself have brought a copy of our 6-year capital improvement plan, and this is the document that by municipal code, the district is required to provide through the commission. Planning and Zoning Commission. And then through their recommendation, we provide it to the assembly for their acceptance. It's not necessarily an approval type of situation, but it is an accepted document. And how the projects are prioritized on there, we discussed in this white paper, is that, you know, our projects are focused on health, safety, and security and protection of infrastructure of our facilities. Every building is graded on facility conditions and conditions index, and this is a program that we've implemented since 2009-ish timeframe. And also a building is scored on its educational adequacy index, which basically identifies any deficiencies of a facility as compared to our approved district-wide educational specifications. So like say, for example, our requirements are for a 26 elementary classroom facility. There are some facilities that were built before these district-wide ed specs were approved. And so some facilities have a smaller footprint, have a little bit smaller classrooms and those types of things. But every building is rated and scored, and that is also identified on our 6-year capital. The other analysis that we take a look at is life cycle cost analysis, and just basically, you know, the cost to renovate a facility, or and we'll just go through all the options, either renovating or improving or demolishing, like whatever is the best option for that facility. The other item that I actually did not add on this is capacity. You know, as we were talking about declining enrollments in our schools and even across the city, you know, that is something that we're also taking a look into in this upcoming 6-year CIP cycle, is how that, you know, I'm sure you've heard discussions about the right sizing the district. That is going to kind of fall into play in our capital planning for this upcoming year. So in terms of, there's a question about how the district either reprioritizes or reallocates funding that we receive. So I have a couple of examples of that I've shared in this document, is that, you know, in some cases, there is an emergent priority that, you know, comes up. For example, the elementary school of Spring Hill, the roof project that we have now moved forward with, it raised to the level of becoming a priority, you know, kind of outside of our initial review. But inputs come to our department and through maintenance that will say, okay, this project is really necessary. And so we then take a look at our available balances and see what we're able to do and what we are allowed to do in accordance with the bond proposal language. And so I have a snippet of that reallocation process and what we are authorized to do. And it does require board approval, completion of other projects and such. So that is how we were able to fund Spring Hill. Therefore, it also is not going to show its the project on our future funding for bonds. Because it's taken care of. On the other hand, so Central Roof was just approved on the 2024 ballot. And that also came up as an emergent project, but the sheer magnitude of that project was not fortuitous for us to look for bond residuals to allocate to it. So I guess that's.
And I just wanted to say that you can find this document on our, the district website under the capital planning department. It's available, and past years are available, so you can see kind of how it progresses. More questions?
Any questions from the school board? Hearing none.
I actually have one. That's okay.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm just curious, this educational adequacy index, is that a national standard?
It is a factor. I'd have to look into whether or not other districts or other around the nation, if they actually take a look at that as a factor. But it is a factor that our district uses in terms of how our buildings are able to adequately deliver our programs here in Cambridge.
Okay, so it was created here? I guess that's what I'm getting at, is it said,
Well, our district-wide ed specs that's a requirement. And so I guess in a way to take a look at a comparative measure of how a building performs versus another and prioritizing, that's where that comes into play, I
Right,
suppose.
and I guess, I would say that, when we were developing this process to do the facility condition index, which is completely how the piece and the parts of the building, maintain their life, and it's the ceilings and it's the boilers. We realized that there was this other component that needed to be developed as well. And
Yeah.
I think perhaps they used some, when the administration at the time in our department used some, I don't think they came at it from ground zero, but they developed their own
Sure.
kind of methodology for it. So we can tell you.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, just curious.
It,
Other questions? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, move on the agenda. Budget Advisory Committee member discussions. Is there anything
You have an OMB report?
pardon?
Do we have an OMB report?
Oh, almost forgot you guys.
Very quiet.
No, I don't want to do that. Golly, we need you bad. Sorry about that. Questions for OMB? You got reports?
We do. My name is Ona Browse. I am the acting Office of Management and Budget Director. I started 2.5 weeks ago, and that's good because we are in the middle of budget season and there's a lot to do. I come to the municipality having been here before. I worked here for 5 years in the mayor's office as the deputy chief of staff and the chief of staff in 2015 to 2020. I have, during those 5 years, one of my specialty portfolio items was the budget. So I worked with OMB almost every day on various things that were moving through the process, but particularly the budget build on an annual basis. That was one of the things that I spent most of my time on. So I have a pretty solid foundation on what the municipal budget looks like and what the municipal budget process looks like. And I'm really excited to be part of the office that gets to provide that service to the mayor and the city and this committee. So we are currently in the beginning of the budget process. We have requested budget proposals from all of the departments and utilities and enterprises. We will be going through departmental reviews with the mayor over the next 2 weeks in the hopes to produce the 120-day memo that is due to the assembly and to the public 120 days before the end of the year. There should be some initial or preliminary revenue information and capital information from the utilities involved in that timing for August 30th, I think it's a little early this year just because of where the dates fall on the day of the week. And once we get through the departmental review with the mayor, we will do the intense process of negotiating how all of those budgets actually land in the final build before we pass the budget proposal from the mayor to the assembly at the beginning of October. So there are a couple of months of a lot of furious activity within the OMB office compiling all that information. And while we are doing that, if there are informational requests for requests from departments that this body would like to see, please let us know. We can bring them, if if Commissioner Looping would like to see the Port of Alaska to come forward, we could have them come present at the body too. By the time we get to November, when the budget needs to be passed, we will have added a couple of maybe new opportunities in the budget book for communications with the public, a little summary documents to understand the budget documents better. I think we'll have a couple of changes that will be pretty helpful as far as the understanding of the budget for the public and other departments within the municipality. And I'm here to answer any questions you have that you might want to know from the OMB director.
Any questions from anyone? Hearing none. Thank you. Going down to item number 6, Budget Advisory Commission member discussions. You can discuss your ideas, your concepts, what you think we ought to be doing, maybe things we should make recommendations to on the assembly, mayor's office, or whatever. So the floor is open.
Well, I would just comment that I do think that the project increase proposal by AEDC is an opportunity for this, commission to kind of jump in and understand the implications. I'm going to try and participate or observe the work session on the 16th and just to be kind of well versed in that as we, participate in on this advisory commission and with the transition and new administration, I think there's an opportunity for us to weigh in on some level. So
I concur.
Well, perhaps we should set up a subcommittee. How about if we done that?
well,
So
I
that you guys-
think that maybe we could propose something next meeting. I think this is very in the early stages. I'd like to follow the work session on it and get a little more information and perhaps have a presentation as Assemblymember Brawley suggested, so that we can just get some more direct information on it.
You want to serve on that committee also?
If, when we get around to creating it, I'd be willing to participate. Yeah.
Why don't you two, work as a subcommittee? And you've
I
got,
would like to be on that also. Al, this is Carla.
okay, that's 3. Okay.
So
Hopefully I can make the time.
I'd have to check to see how subcommittees work.
Well,
In
you can
terms of
do
the
that.
Open Meetings Act and
It's
Right.
all.
Yeah, but
it's all
we
under
present-
review.
But the subcommittee presents to the entire BAC. So I don't,
Right, but-
I don't,
there's no restriction on.
I think there's a limit on the number of members who can
Right,
talk outside a public
right.
meeting. You could have a subcommittee with, say, 5 members and you have to notice it, but it's a matter.
One or two.
Yeah.
I think 3 be good.
Have a quorum.
Okay, good. So you guys can coordinate, Aaron can help you coordinate on stuff and come back and meet with the budget advisory.
Yeah, I think we ought to table, forming it until we know, kind of know where we're going with the whole
Yeah.
tax proposal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
But I do think that it would be worth adding it as an agenda item to our next meeting to discuss.
Through the chair, if you would like AEDC to come and present their information, we can request that if that is appropriate for the next meeting.
But as Lindsay suggested, something more detailed than the 30,000 foot view
Right.
that we got, yesterday.
right. So I think that you guys could meet privately as that committee, because that way you might have a lot of questions and some in-depth questions. So we will assume that you guys will all work together. Okay, Linda?
Through the chair, I think what I'd like to do is, if I may, and I'd like to attend the work session. I'd like to add the presentation at our next meeting. And if at that point we think that we need to dive in deeper, we could add discussing a subcommittee at the next meeting.
Part of the agenda, yeah.
Right, add that as an agenda item.
Okay.
Following the AEDC presentation.
Okay. Okay, any other discussion to come before us at this point under number 6?
Because I haven't been through the whole budget process before, do we ultimately provide a recommendation once we've seen the budget?
Yeah,
Proposal.
you bring the recommendations to the full board, then we can pass and approve that. And then the chair can send a written letter to the assembly and the mayor.
Okay. Yeah, just wanted.
And I think once you get this new booklet, this isn't the new one, this is the old one. But I think that'll give you some guidelines.
Good.
Okay. Anybody from the audience want to participate?
Anybody online have any input?
Who?
Did anybody, any of the BAC members from online?
Any BNC members online that want to talk? Okay. Audience participation? Anybody available? Okay.
Sorry, if I can circle back, I have one other question. Do you know how many vacancies we have on this commission?
Counting the expirations that I know of, we are down to 5.
How many we down?
5.
So we do have, so there's a lot of opportunity if anyone knows folks in the community that might be interested in serving to put an application.
And the link to that is on the BAC page.
So we need to try and help locate some members. Next scheduled meeting, September 12th, October 10th, and November 14th. It's an upcoming topics that it's been suggested we have a look at. The sales tax proposal, the property tax changes and assessment methods, and the gasoline user fee trust. And what they are is that the city currently collects $10 or 10 cents a gallon on gasoline. But our roads are in terrible. Hello? Okay. Our roads are in terrible, terrible condition. I mean, you drive around this town and we've got about a third-class city road system. I believe that gas tax brings in about somewhere between $14 and $16 million a year. And that'd be set up as a trust, not where there's blank authority to it, certain conditions only. And that way that money goes into that trust, and that trust can be used to fund not new construction, but just a lot of asphalt paving. So property tax changes, the ideas of that came from some folks I know. And, it used to be nice when property taxes were fairly cheap. Hey, you pay about twice a year. But you take a look at what the property taxes are now, and a lot of people would be more comfortable in having taxes assessed 3 times a year instead of 2. And that's pretty easy to do, pretty simple. And I think it'll be something like that would be appreciated by the people paying the bills. And so those are things we can talk about. Any questions on those? Okay. Anything to come before the body today? Okay, your motion to adjourn?
I'll offer that. I'm gonna be out on October tenth, so just kind of for
Okay.
planning purposes, I won't be available. I'll be out of state.
So do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second, this is Carla.
Is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Heck, yeah.
Passed. Thank you. Adjourn.
Knows how to run a meeting.
Huh?
Al knows how to run a meeting.